Your source for all things Texas Tech. This is the Ask Level podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome into another episode of the Ask Level podcast. This podcast, as usual, brought to you by our friends at Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
He's Chris Level. I'm Chois Woodman. On the other side of another victory, another Big 12 victory for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. First 2-0 start. Well noted now at since 2013, 11 years since that's happened. That's too long. It feels like, Level, you in the last two, put 0.25 or whatever we're at now, 2.3 seasons under Joey McGuire. You've had
2.3. Interesting.
I don't think my math's correct there. Maths are hard. Maths are hard. Anyway, in the two seasons and some change, however deep you are into this, you keep seeing these walls knocked down, these first time since this, which most of it's positive. Nothing's been perfect, obviously, to this point, but 4-1. I know there were some people that were dreaming of a 5-0 start, but 4-1, pretty darn good so far to start the season. And like a lot of wins in the Joey McGuire era have been, another close one on Saturday night against Cincinnati. And there's been a lot of those that you were down to the wire on, and not lacking in entertainment, to say the least.
No, never a dull moment.
Yeah.
I think everybody's getting. I saw this this morning as we're taping this, but I saw this earlier before we're taping it. I should say that BYU, Colorado, and Tech, 3 of the only 7 teams out there that are 2-0 in their league amongst the Power 4 leagues. Just like everybody would have predicted. Yeah, now there's some 1-0 teams.
Sure.
In some of these leagues, but as far as 2-0, and I think you're still in the need to go prove it stage, and to do that, you're going to have to go figure out a way to win some games on the road, plural. And then none of that's going to be easy. But I think people are getting a real good feel for just how competitive this league is.
Yeah,
we kind of knew this. That's the criticism of it as you talk about the college football playoff, is that you're going to beat each other up and you're going to eliminate everybody else, and you may be just looking at a one bid league, if you will. But week to week, man, it's fat, and they're not easy to get. I think that. And whether you made them look that way or whether what I'm about to say is true, I don't know. But I've come away pretty impressed with Arizona State and Cincinnati, and I say that because you're flawed with your team, talking about Texas Tech, but I've been pretty impressed with some of the pieces of what Arizona State's roster has, what Cincinnati's roster has.
Sure,
these are not going to be easy outs if they can stay healthy. Cincinnati just wouldn't go away. I mean, I thought Royer was the tight end phenomenal. I thought the quarterback was very good, Sorsby. I thought Dante Corleone was better than I guess I was expecting him to be. Xavier Henderson is a Josh Kelly, Caleb Douglas, Coy Aiken type wideout that caused you some serious problems. But luckily, your field goal kickers are better than theirs. Or their kicker, because that's kind of was the difference. But it's just kind of back and forth. I mean, you get down 14-3, you get up 41-27, and you just kind of had to hold on. But I mean, you don't apologize for them. As flawed as it may have been, or as frustrating as it may have been, I leave the building thankful, excited, fun, all the stuff, because again, they're not easy to get. And I saw Jack Anderson former
Yeah,
player.
I saw the same tweet. Yes.
Yeah, he said something to the effect of, we lose this game in the past. And I don't know if there's a way to prove that, but I think that
Sure there is, because I mean, look at the results. How many close games like this you were in that you did lose in the last
yeah,
decade. I mean,
yeah,
there is a way to prove that because you just have so many examples of tight games, one possession game. That was one of the biggest knocks on Cliff Kingsbury's era is the one possession losses over and over. And Matt Wells, both of those eras, you had tons of close games that you came up on the other end of. So I think there is backing to what he says.
and there was that stretch in the, I guess, last season, in those, like the Wyoming, the
Yeah,
Oregon,
yeah,
the West Virginia, where he's like, we're never going to win another one score game again. And now you rattled off a bunch of them
sure, sure.
here. So, yeah, crazy night at the Jones. There's a lot going on, before, during, after, all the stuff, but hell of an atmosphere.
Yeah.
And yeah, you moved to 2-0 in the Big 12, and that's ultimately what you showed up to do, and you got it done, and salute and move on, right?
I mean, are we back into the territory of being able to claim the Jones is back and being a tough place? Because the last
Yeah,
I mean, you're at 14-3 under Joey McGuire at Jones Stadium, and there was a long stretch where, I mean, you're beating Kansas, and that's about it for Big 12 teams for a couple of seasons there. So
yeah. What are you, 14-3 under Joey at
yeah,
home?
14-3.
I don't know if you'll ultimately be able to answer that this year based
Yeah,
on what I'll say, but because I don't feel like there's a juggernaut coming in and maybe
I was
Colorado will
about to say
continue.
Colorado's looking like it at this point.
They could prove to be that.
Yeah,
I'd like to see what it looked like in early November whenever they get here,
of course.
and that'll be a circus for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you're going to be a tough out at home. I just and even last year, the Kansas State game, you're playing pretty good, and then your starter goes out due to injury at quarterback, and they kind of altered that game permanently.
Yeah.
But no, it's yeah, you're playing to your environment, and it hasn't always been easy. I mean, we can go back to Abilene Christian a month ago, and I remember reading a bunch of, this team's not winning another game the rest of the year, or they'll be lucky to win 3 or 4 games the rest of the
Sure,
season.
sure.
There was plenty of commentary out there about that on all platforms. Just people were frustrated, disgusted, and all those things. And it's just, you're flawed, but it's all about trying to figure out ways to get it done. And right now, what I see is, I think your offensive line is having their moments. I think your quarterback is being very efficient. He's hanging in the pocket, delivering some tough throws. He's taking care of the football. I think you're doing a variety of things offensively, scheme wise. I think defensively, you're dealing with a variety of injuries on the back end, which has not been easy. I think you're having to manufacture a pass rush because you just don't have a ton of juice up front, and so you're having to blitz and you're having to do some things that's putting your secondary in a bind for all kinds of reasons, and then you're dealing with the injuries on top of that. But your special teams, for the most part, have been really, really good. I think, and so with that, you're able to win some of the close games. But some of I tell you, Woodman, there's some things you did in this game versus Cincinnati that I don't know if you'll be able to do this on the road or
Hmm.
against better teams wherever it's located and live to tell about it.
Yeah.
The fumble on the punt return, semi deep in your own territory, having to settle for a field goal when you just have 3 receivers drop passes and have to settle for 3, being first and goal at the 5 and not being able to do anything with that, and ended up having to settle for 3. There's some things mixed in, and just some of the chunk plays you're giving up. Your secondary is kind of has their head spinning a little bit, but part of that is that chicken or the egg. Part of that is that because you just can't apply consistently enough pressure on the opposing quarterback. And the scary thing there is that Noah Fafita, who you're going to see this weekend, I mean, he made some unbelievable throws on the run and being flushed against Utah there in Salt Lake City as they won, I think, in Salt Lake City for the first time in like 2000 since 2014. Sort of been what 10 years ish, and so. And you're going to see Shador Sanders, who, if you give him time, it's just you're in trouble. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just he's going to chew you up, and he's got elite skill on the outside. I think Josh Hoover can cause some problems, Rocco Becht. So you've got to figure that part out. And what's scary about your team is that I think where you're weakest is where really football starts. It's a trenches
Yeah,
game, and
it is.
that's where I guess most of my questions still lie.
Well, let's dive into a question there. This one comes from Josh. Says, "Did the O line have its best game of the season against Cincinnati?"
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean they played pretty good against North Texas, but I guess based on competition
Yeah,
that you're facing, probably yeah, because I think Dante Corleone, it's like what's that meme? Is it Chris Rock or whatever? Where he's like scratching his like, hey man, you got any more of them? Like you got any more of them Dante Corleones out there?
yeah,
He was very good.
I like that.
6'1", 320. Eric Collins and I thought they were pretty good up front, really on both. And I thought their offensive line was good too. Maybe that had to do with what your defensive line was dealing with, but
Sure.
offensive line wise, there's still probably too many negative or no gain type runs. I
Right.
think though that they, a lot of what you're doing is a credit to Taj and your tight ends. I think that a lot of this is schemed up. I think you're utilizing your tight ends. I mean, because Mason Tharp, while he had the one target and catch. I think he continues to be one of your most valuable / important players on offense because
Sure.
he plays the most snaps for the tight ends by far.
Yeah.
And I think so much of what he's doing is involved in the run game,
And he probably
and
gets the least amount of credit of the tight ends
and I'm trying to give him some of that credit
for
now
sure.
because I think he deserves as much credit as we can heap upon him. But you shuffled your line a little bit, and I think that seems to have worked.
Hmm.
And we'll see if they stick with it. Now, am I watching them individually and rewatching it and grading them and all that? I'm not going to participate in that, but I Ty Buchanan was expected to kind of see some time coming into this game. He really didn't come out but one play, and then I think they were about to have to get a penalty, and so they called timeout, maybe I think it was. So he comes
Yeah.
back out. So I don't really know if he even registered a snap. So and again, Porche is not a guard by trade. This is a first for him. So you're just trying to figure out what buttons to push this group up front, but that seemed to have worked, and I think that part of why I feel pretty good about it is because of what they were going against.
Yeah.
I think that is also you need to factor that in as well. But I bet we see the same group next week going forward. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that and listen to what Coach McGuire and Coach Kitley had to say once they watch it and grade it and all those things and kind of see where they're at. But now
Yeah.
you've got a little bit of depth. I'm sure Todd Buchanan's not real pleased or thrilled with kind of getting bumped, if you will. But
Odds are he's going to be needed at some point in this season. So
odds are you're exactly right. So
it's not like he's just going to sit on the sideline for the year. And honestly, nothing against Ty Buchanan, but if he is sitting there for the rest of the year, then you're probably in good shape because
I'd
things
take
have
it.
gone
I'd
well.
take it and run right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
doubt.
So, offensive line there. All right. I'm going to spend like 1 minute here to vent, but I mean, and maybe I don't know. You said this to me last night as we're about to walk out the door and broadcast is over, we're finished, and you're like, we're talking. He just gave up 550 yards. He gave up 41 points to Cincinnati. We're just talking about the game, and then you say, and people are going to complain about your play calling, and then I'm a sicko, and just hop on Twitter, kind of get a feel for things, and what do I see? People griping about play calling, people griping about those sorts of things. And I understand we are conditioned to offense in Lubbock, Texas. I get it. You were, I mean, completely offensive minded. And it's not just in Lubbock. I mean, there's the video game aspect of everybody has the perfect play call at every time. But I mean, surely some of that stuff has got to be satire, right? Satirical. It just, you see it as like you just gave up 550 yards. You just moved the ball pretty darn well all night. And there were a few mistakes. There were also drops and lack of execution here and there. But like, it just baffles me, Level. You told me, hey, this is what we got coming. And it's crazy, right? Because one thing to me that has been enjoyable during the Joey McGuire era is that you've been that, we talked about it last week, but that chameleon that adapts to your type of game. You can win a lower scoring kind of knockdown drag out game like you had last week against Arizona State, and that wasn't even that lower scoring, or you can win a shootout, which is essentially what you had against Cincy on Saturday night. But it is nice that you are not so one dimensional as a team, and you can win multiple types of games. So, off the soapbox there. Sorry. How about
No,
another?
that's okay.
It blows my mind that people can just be so one track minded, and that, and it's fandom. I get it. We get passionate about things, but maybe, yeah, find a
Yeah, I mean,
different slant.
I don't know what Zach Kitley can do or supposed to do to make people go, oh man, I mean,
I mean, the dude could walk on water, and he wouldn't be walking fast enough for people.
or he drowned. I mean, they would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
I mean, you spread it out. Your quarterback has got, let's see. I mean, just the 2 interceptions, but I mean, what are we dealing with touchdown pass wise for the season? Is it he had a 2 against Cincinnati? Was it 14? I mean,
I think you're at
you're
14. Yeah.
yeah, 14 and 2 touchdown to interception ratio. They are ranked points per game, total offense in the top 20 in both categories.
Yeah.
You scored on 7 of 9 possessions. And to some people, it's just never going to be enough.
It won't.
I think you spread the ball around. It's last year. It was like, why are you not handing it to Taj enough? Well, you give it to him 32 times in this game, but I guess that's not enough. I mean, it's just you're doing some things outside the box. People wanted, there wasn't really any screens in this game. Everybody was tired of the screens. You didn't get hardly any here, and
no,
you had,
I can think of, I think 2, and both were successful in the game.
I know you
Just
you
off
got
the top of the
you
head,
got a
yeah.
shovel pass. They tried to go deep because that's what this Iowa State scheme. It's essentially built to invite you to run it, where it's like there's the cheese, take
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And some teams are good enough to run it, which you were. Some teams are not, but it's really built to take away all the perimeter passing game, like the quick game and all those things. And if you can't run it, then you really have a hard time with the play action stuff. Barron missed a throw to Coy Aiken early in the game that could have won a play action shot on the first drive. That you had the other drops on the one drive at the tail end of the third quarter. I think you have Conyers running Wildcat. I mean, I think you're using your personnel to its fullest extent. Josh Kelly continues to show up every game. You're feeding him. You score 44 points in a game, and it's just not anywhere near enough. I just don't know what, and I fully admit, you get first and goal at the 5. Yeah, maybe there's some of those calls that Zach would love to have back, and not. He ran Barron, you trying to get him, but it had worked. Sure. It had worked previously. It had worked against North Texas. It had worked earlier in the game. You run a jet sweep trying to catch them off. And the
Right.
thing about
Sometimes
that,
it is lack of execution, though. Like
yeah,
it is
yeah.
easy that it's the laziest thing in to blame play calling every single time. When on that sweep that you're talking about, there's a missed block. I mean, there was one of a missed block if you go back and watch it, and that's part of the reason it doesn't work. And it just sorry,
Yeah, and it used
yeah,
to, this, I guess I'm numb to it now.
sure.
It used to like bother me. And I tell you what, it doesn't bother Zach or Joey. Because I think
Good. Yeah,
internally they feel like they're very much on the right track. I think that while they know some of their flaws, they try to um, I think they feel like they're doing pretty well with what they've got to work with, and I think they've kept their quarterback healthy. He's playing at a high level. He's very efficient. I think you're spreading it around with this skill that we've seen. There's some yards after the catch, which makes it easier on the play caller. You remember my stuff from a week ago when we talked about Josh Kelly on the broadcast and how much he had done individually compared to everybody that walked out the door via the portal with all those, and that's what you were dealing with from a skill player standpoint the last 2 years with all those guys. So anyway, it's just I mean and again, that's the beauty of fans are passionate. There's a standard here. I don't really care as long as you score more than the other guy. I really don't, and I go back to this all the time. I think the beauty of what Zach and Joey and even Tim are about is
yeah,
getting the result, because first
yeah.
year 14-10 in Ames, come home and it's what is it, 52-45 or something against Oklahoma.
52-49, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
52-49 in back-to-back weeks.
yeah,
So Joey says it all the time. We just got to figure out what kind of game we're getting into
sure.
and play to that. And because you're not good enough to like impose your will and say, this is our recipe. This is what we're doing. Good luck trying to stop it. That doesn't exist. Your margin
Mhm.
for error is still thin. You're just not great in the trenches. I think you've got talent, you've got some depth, you've got some speed, you've got skill now, and
Yeah,
all those things. And it's just about figuring out ways to do more than the other guy.
yep,
And like Joey keeps using the boxing analogy, just keep swinging away. Don't get knocked out. And they got knocked out in Pullman and had
right.
a hard time getting back up. But I think they've been pretty good. Now it's time to take the show on the road and against a really good, what's going to be a very confident Arizona team. And have you seen the spread there?
I have not. No, you got it.
Yeah, I have. Now this is what it opened,
Okay.
but do you have a guess? You're in Tucson. They're fresh off of this is a preseason top 25 team. You're in Tucson, night game, their
I
first Big 12 home game.
I would
Um,
guess because
yeah, I guess it is. It's their very first Big
yeah,
12 home
very
game.
first Big 12 home
Mhm.
game. I would guess because of the camerizing factor in the Utah game, and because of what Arizona showed before that, everything factored in, and the potential Vegas will factor in a potential for a hangover. I would guess Arizona's a 5-point favorite, maybe four,
Three. That's what
three.
it opened at. Yeah,
Okay,
three, which is smaller than I would have thought. Because they
okay,
don't see, that's the thing. They don't look at hangover. They don't factor in any emotion. It's what have you done, location,
yeah,
injury, the end.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, and so we'll see kind of how that number moves. But I mean,
Hmm.
I think you knew you were going to be in a bit of a battle, and it's not always that Vegas is right. I just like it. It's a good barometer.
Sure,
We talked about this. I knew that Cincinnati, when that thing's hovering around 2.5 and 3 all week, and then sure enough,
it's right there.
I mean, it's like, how do they do it? But I will echo the fact that I really do think Cincinnati, I mean, Scott Satterfield has done a really good job with that team. And if Sorsby stays healthy, now you did catch a break with Corey Kiner going out.
Yeah, no
I
doubt.
thought you caught a break with the Pryor kid going out, Evan Pryor, the backup that transferred from Ohio State. And so they kind of got away from their run game at times, but Sorsby just he lit you up, and you still got some really good quarterbacks on your schedule. So that makes me concerned because we've seen what Chandler Morris was not able to do that.
No.
John Mateer was not able to do it, although he hurt you with his legs. But Maverick MacGyver was. Now you've seen Brendan Sorsby do that. So
And
hold on.
and health of the DBs is a huge factor. I mean, because you look at some of the two
Oh yeah.
that weren't able to do it as much, or I guess the one,
And Sam Levitt was actually able to do it quite a bit too,
yeah.
because you were able to limit what they were able to do on the
So
ground.
yeah, Braylon Luck's health factors in. So I mean, I'm not putting it all on him, but you've seen a difference with your unit, your defensive backs, when he's on the field and when he's not. So
God, and
could
if
have
you
used.
want to do a rain dance, or if you're into praying for stupid stuff, I mean, pray for his hamstring.
That's not stupid.
Well, I mean,
Pray for a guy's health.
there's more meaningful things out there. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, you could use him because you're going against.
Yeah.
And this is a mouthful because Travis Hunter is in this league.
Oh man.
Iowa State's got some really good receivers. I think you saw a really good one, and
Yep.
the Henderson kid for Cincinnati. But T-Mac, the McMillan kid for Arizona, is a top 10 pick, 6'4", 215, 220.
Quite legit.
And
yeah.
he is, and he's going to get his, but I'd like to have my best out there trying to limit him, if you will.
Right.
So we'll see what,
Agreed. Let's see. Let's get to this question. This one from Brandel says, through the first 5 games, what position group or aspect of this team has been the biggest disappointment from your preseason expectations? And flip it over. What has been the best positive surprise from those expectations?
This is probably not fair. Maybe it's in my own mind. I had them. We've seen moments, but I guess I thought it would be a bit better. And I guess I go back to the Abilene Christian and the Washington State game. But I thought your interior linebackers would have been a bit better.
Yeah.
They, I think, struggled in both of those games some. And that's me grading that harshly, just because I had that group. And I think I think you're starting to see, Ben Roberts has an unbelievable game against Cincinnati. I mean, he did a little bit of everything for you. And I think if you can kind of keep that group, consistently, that there's depth there with John Curry and Bryce Ramirez and whatnot. But I hate to call that group like disappointing or disappointment, because I don't feel that way, but I did have very high expectations for them. So I guess that would be my answer there, fair or unfair. So the flip side is pleasant surprise. Is that what you're?
Yeah, pretty well.
I mean, I guess we thought it would be, but maybe do you say, are your receivers just better than you would have thought, even if you knew it would be better?
I think it's got to be, because you knew they'd be better, but we didn't know that they'd be this much better. If you're just comparing
it's drastically different.
Where you came from last year to where you're at this year. I mean, it went from maybe the weakest point of your team to arguably the strongest point of your team this year.
Yeah, it's drastically different.
So
I think the problems continue to lie with your. I was worried about your secondary. As deep and talented as you are, it was wildly inexperienced.
Yes.
That has proven to be true. I don't know. If we were to go back and like revisit some of the conversations we had about like your defensive front, I think I remember it's like, you don't have a Tyree Wilson, maybe don't even have a Miles Cole, but it's going to be like a strength of numbers. And I don't know if I think we had even said, I don't know if that's a positive or not. That's just going to be what their strength is. And you haven't had a lot of those pieces. So it's hard to grade it and like be harsh with it when there's been no Esters until Cincinnati game, which was barely. No Spencer, no Adedire.
Really, the only one you've
no
had.
Harvey Dyson for a couple of games.
Yeah. I mean, you've had Isaac Smith, and he's been good for the most part.
He's just been okay. He would tell you he's just been okay.
You need more sacks, but he's I mean, you look at the plays that the interceptions, the last 2 weeks have both come off of Isaac Smith in the quarterback's face.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but he's really been the only positive one to point at. Dyson at times, but because of all those guys, the pile of bodies for you, it's just
Yeah.
been unfortunately not. You haven't had that strength in numbers that you thought you'd have coming into the season. Um, yeah. So, let's see, there was another question. This one, was this referee crew new? I don't remember seeing them in a Big 12 game before. Seemed like they had a pretty rough night.
Yeah, I'd never seen this crew before. I don't know whether this was like one of the crews that was based in the Pac-12 that you have added to now be a Big 12 crew, or if they got
Promoted.
brought up from because you needed more referee crews in your league because you've got more games week to week and all those things. I mean they only called six, I think six penalties were called in this game. 5 on the Red Raiders, 1 on Cincinnati,
Ended up
which is
being two
crazy.
listed for Cincinnati, but
Oh, is it 2? Okay,
I'm trying
my
to
fault.
think
My
of
fault.
when the second one was, because one was that early.
Yeah, where they almost it was like a false
False
start,
start.
and like Tech starts pointing, and Cincinnati's like, "What? We didn't. Nobody did anything." And he's like, "You know what? I'm going to throw a flag," because I think he got talked into throwing a flag that particular time by Tech, and
Yeah.
then I think he got talked into throwing a flag for the potential targeting on Sorsby. I didn't like the no call on Coy Aiken. We talked about this on the broadcast. I think that was
Sure.
unfortunate that they just let that go. Hit on a defenseless receiver. Some of you guys thought there was maybe even should have looked at targeting, whatever. But I'm thinking at the minimum,
Minimum,
you
yes.
just can't take a free shot on a guy that is quote unquote defenseless. That's not the way this thing is set up, and it happened right in front of the official. But he just stared at it and watched. I think the what you're maybe somebody is asking this question for, because I think they had a hard time managing the game. And I'm sure the white hat was nervous. I mean, he at one point he's like, that's a penalty on Tennessee. I mean, Cincinnati. He's doing this on the live mic. They had a hard time sorting out a few things, a lot of conversations with substituting and then the targeting and like the runoffs and all the things at the very end of the game. And so it led to a lot of testiness from the fans. Just like, okay, what are we pausing for? What's the hold up? Get your stuff together, gentlemen. And because there's something to be said about fake it till you make it.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're wrong, if you like have a command of the room or the game in this case, and you're like very authoritative or assertive with, no, this is what we're doing. Okay, ball in play, we're going.
Yeah.
But when you come off as unsure or not, let's all huddle up repeatedly, it gives the premise of I don't know if they know really what's going on here kind of deal. So
Right.
who knows? That's all I'll say about that. It's an impossible job trying to referee this game. Not every crew is going to be great. They're going to make their mistakes, just like coaches and players are going to make their mistakes, and broadcasters. We do it all the time.
What?
Yeah, no, it happens.
Jokes.
Yeah, I was about to say you better not suggest that, or
all jokes, man.
I'll make a comment about.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
By the way, just
That's
quick
fair.
search. This crew did come over from the Pac-12 last year.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's what I would say about that. And there's going to be some. I thought the targeting thing, had they let it stick, that could have literally changed the game.
Absolutely.
And
I think the frustration with a lot of it was how it was done, because usually that would be the two guys that are right there next to the play that would throw the flag. And it was literally about 6 or 7 seconds after the fact.
Yeah, you got talked into it.
And it's the ref that is on the opposite side, that the white hat that
you just don't you don't want an official to come off as like unorganized with all the meetings and all that or
and it seemed like it was that way.
Or easily persuaded.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's what he is, but it's just I can see why the question would be asked and why people would be kind of curious on, okay, hadn't seen these guys a lot of huddles. You had one get hurt, which could have affected
Sure.
the dynamic.
Sure it does.
I was able to find out that they do have to travel with an alternate, but when the alternate comes in, he may have never called from the particular position that he's being asked. In this case, it was the umpire.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? But yeah, we'll go from there.
One more question for you, Level. This one's more just for me. Before we wrap this up, have we learned anything about the Big 12 through, what are we, 5 weeks into the season? Like,
well, you've learned that. I think people were quick to name all these tiers of contenders and afterthought programs and all that. That has been shot to heck. That is take your list from whatever preseason you had and you can wad that up and throw it away.
Yeah.
But I think that what we are learning, and I think we thought we knew, is wildly competitive league week to week.
Yeah.
Don't be shocked by the scores that you're seeing. I mean, like you and I share this sentiment. The Colorado performance in Orlando, stunning to me. I would have told you, I thought UCF was maybe one of those teams that should be being talked about a lot more as a league title contender.
Same here.
And then they show up with all the hubbub and all the pomp and circumstance, and they just get worked at home.
Way
with
less
all that
surprised
speed.
that Arizona won at Utah than the way Colorado beat.
Yeah, and the Arizona game is, do they win that game if Cam Rising is playing? I don't know. I doubt it.
Probably not.
But everybody keeps wanting to crown Utah, but they had a quarterback that hadn't played in a year and a half because he keeps getting hurt.
Yeah.
And here they are again.
Yep.
So I've even heard people that they should be the favorite if assuming Cam Rising is playing. Well, he's not. He hasn't been playing.
It's not.
And I don't know even if he does come back, can he stay playing? I mean, so it's just move on from that. But week to week, man, nightmare. And you better be ready to go. You'll get embarrassed or lose. But the Red Raiders have a chance to really, I think, make some hay if they can go get one done on the road somehow, some way in Tucson late at night.
Whew. Hey, and thrilled that you're 2-0, because there's some teams that did not expect to be sitting at 0-2 right now, or even 1-1 right now, that are. So happy where you are, and that you've got the opportunity to potentially get to 3-0 in Tucson. So looking forward to the late night with you on Saturday, Level. We'll do one of these sometime on the other side.
And thanks to Cantex Roofing, man. Appreciate it. Always fun talking after a win.
Absolutely. That's Chris Level. I'm Chois Woodman. It's been the Ask Level podcast, brought to you by Double T 97.3.
You've been listening to the Ask Level podcast, powered by Double T 97.3.